Let's begin by reading a passage from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 4, and we'll read verses 6 and 7. The Gospel of Luke, chapter 4, verses 6 and 7. And the devil said unto him, All this power will I give thee, and the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me, and to whomsoever I will, I give it. If thou therefore wilt worship me, all shall be thine. The devil's desire from the beginning has been to be worshipped as God. Remember, in the book of Isaiah, we are told that the devil said that he would ascend into heaven and place his throne above the stars of God. And his ultimate goal was to be like the Most High God. So that's what he's been trying throughout the history of mankind, to bring mankind into subjection to himself so that he may be worshipped as God. And we know that a time is coming very soon when he will actually succeed to some extent in achieving his goal. Through his son, the Antichrist, whom he will place on the throne as king of the whole world, he will receive glory and worship for at least 3.5 years of the tribulation known as the Great Tribulation. So in order to achieve this goal, as I've said, the devil has been using nations and people and groups and individuals as well throughout history. And now his efforts have doubled because he knows that his time has come, the time for him to place his son on the throne and for him to be worshipped as the God of this world. Now we have been looking in connection to this at America, Donald Trump, and their connection to the last days. Now, if you've been wondering how any of these things are connected, once again, let me remind you that America in these last days is a superpower, right? It is America that is ruling, you could say in one way, as the superpower. So certainly America will have a role to play in these last days. And certainly America will be a tool in the hands of the devil to bring in the new world order, which American presidents always spoke about, the new world order. And of course, that would lead to the one world economy. Or probably the one world economy would lead to a new world order. I do not know how that's going to work out, but both of these will be a reality very soon. One world economy. And then he will have a one world religion, the ultimate goal. So you see, his purpose in doing this is to have total control. Total control. Because you see, the devil is a narcissist, and narcissist cannot survive without total control. So you have the new world order, let's put it this way, in which you have a one world economy, a one world religion, and a one world government. These are the things that consist of this new world order, right? And he does it so that he can have total control and as a result be worshipped as the God, the ultimate dictator of this world. And like I've said, America will be a tool in his hands. Now, if America is going to be a tool in his hands in these last days, then certainly the President of America, in one way or the other, will be responsible in ushering in this new world order, whether knowingly or unknowingly, right? So nobody can escape that, especially if you are at the helm of things in America. So willingly or unwillingly, knowingly or unknowingly, the powers in America will be used to usher in the new world order. That's the ultimate goal of the enemy. Now, you must understand that America is extremely important for us to understand, right from its founding, throughout its history, whatever happened in America, and what is happening today, especially, is very important to understand, and that's what I'm trying to explain. Now, in previous Bible studies, we have seen how at the very top of this pyramid of power, right, to take total control of this world, you have the Jesuits. They are at the very top of the pyramid. After them, you have the other levels and categories of rulers and powers. Of course, above the Jesuits, you have the devil himself, right? You could say the devil would be the capstone of this pyramid. And under him would be the Jesuits, and under them the rest of the orders and the various organizations that play important roles in running governments and nations. So we have seen that anybody who got in the way of the Jesuits are taken out. Anybody. Right? So it's like this. You either fall down before me and worship me, as we have just read the devil saying to the Lord Jesus Christ. If you do not do it, we'll get you out of the way. That's the way the devil works. That's the way the Jesuits work. And we have seen that they took out Abraham Lincoln. They took out John F. Kennedy. Both of these men went against the Jesuit order and they were taken out. And of course, JFK Jr. as well was taken out. So the reason why we looked at it is because we need to understand how the Jesuits work. When Abraham Lincoln tried to go against the Jesuits, he was taken out by them. There is enough proof out there to prove it. JFK, you must be a fool to believe that the FBI and the CIA have not been able to find out the real reason why JFK was taken out. Are you telling me that the world's foremost intelligence and investigation organizations failed to find out the reason for the murder of the most important figure in their country? That's rubbish. They know it. They cover it up. It's there for any sane person to do it. It's not conspiracy. It's not, believing in fables to say that these three men were taken out by the Jesuits, because JFK, as we have seen in the previous Bible study, went against many of the objectives and goals of the Jesuits in the United States of America. Many of them. He wanted to close down the CIA, which is the arm of the Jesuits. It's the intelligence arm of the Jesuits. He tried to bring in a national currency, if I may call it that, right, apart from the Reserve Bank of America. And that is their financial arm, the financial arm of the Jesuits. He went against that. And of course, there are so many other things that we have seen that he tried to do, which went directly against the Jesuits' plan for America. Now, Christians always say that, in America, that America was founded on biblical principles by godly, born-again Christians. All that may be true, but that doesn't mean that the devil will not try to come in and take control. He does every single time. Good men or bad men, we have to decide that, because if you do an honest research on the lives of some of these founding fathers of the United States of America, including George Washington, you would see that many, if not all of them, were not really born-again Christians. How do we know? Because of their association with the occult. That's right. Many of them were associated with occultic organizations and involved in occultic practices. Right? Nobody wants to talk about it because they spoke like Christians. They quoted scripture, just like the devil quotes scripture, right? In this passage that we have just read, the devil quotes scripture to Jesus Christ himself. But you see, the people who had a plan for America at the very beginning, at the very inception, could not openly disclose their plans nor put them into practice in front of the whole people, because they had a bunch of born-again, Bible-believing Christians there. They cannot do it. They would be destroyed by the people. So they understood that their plan was not a plan that would be implemented all at once. They knew it's going to take hundreds of years. These people are very patient. They're very far-sighted, right? And it's not like they try to achieve everything by themselves. They build little by little, and that's what they have done for the last 300-400 years in the United States, as we're going to see. So in order to achieve their goal, they need some things in place, like their intelligence arm, their financial arm, right, their economic arm, which is again subdivided into many organizations. You have the Trilateral Commission, you have the Council for Foreign Relations. All these things are little groups that they use to implement their plans. And when anyone goes against those, they are taken out of the way, as it has been done before. Now, I'm going to talk, I have a lot to talk about America, but, there is so much that it's a bit too much actually to try and understand where to begin and how to move forward, but I'll try my best to do it in a very coherent manner, in a very systematic way, so that you don't get confused, that I don't get confused, right? But these are some very important things for us to understand. Now, as it is today, the present situation in America, you have Donald Trump, who has been elected as the 47th, I guess, president of America, and he's going to take office very soon, in a couple of months. A lot of things can change before that. If he is like these men, right? And if he's going really against these people, then a lot of things can change in these 2 months, or even after he takes office, right? Both these men, or at least JFK, was taken out when he was in office. He was the president. Abraham Lincoln also, right? I think he was only 40 days into his second term, or 41 days into his second term, when he was shot dead in the theater. Nothing can stop these people. If they decide to do something, they can do it. So that's why I keep saying there are only two options. Either Donald Trump is really who he says he is, right? And he's really going to go against them, or he's just another puppet. I do not know. We have to wait and see. But there is a third option. Even if he's really a genuine person who is going against them, instead of taking him out, they have ways of manipulating. They have ways of controlling. You must realize that as born-again Christians. Donald Trump is not fighting against social evils if he's really fighting against these things. That may be what he has in his mind. That may be what he says. But if he's really fighting, then his fight is not against social evils. His fight is not against a bunch of evil people who are destroying America. As I'm going to show you, his fight is against those who rule behind the scenes. And I'm not talking about the Jesuits. I'm talking about those behind him, the principalities, the powers, the devil himself. So you think he has enough power to go against them? You'll say, well, God is going to uphold him with the right hand of his righteousness. He may do it. I do not know. I hope that's how it turns out. But in these last days that we are living in, right, God is transitioning from the Gentiles to the Jews. So I really doubt, though again, I hope I'm wrong. I genuinely hope I'm wrong. But I doubt that God's going to do that. Right? So that means Trump's going to go against these powers in his own wisdom, in his own strength, and he's bound to fail. So these three options. I hope that he is a genuine person. I hope that the Lord is with him and he'll bless America one last time before the rapture. All that is fine. You know, I agree with that. I hope that too. But I'm looking at the negative side. Now, what they're going to do is, in America, not only in America, but you see it all over Europe. You have to open your eyes and see what's happening in the UK. Look at what's happening in Germany, in Sweden, in Poland, right, in the Netherlands, and all these countries in Europe, and then in America. What's happening? The Muslim immigrants are wreaking havoc everywhere, especially in the UK, right? And also in almost every other country. You have it in Canada as well. So what they are doing is they are trying to incite a backlash from the white people of these European and American countries. They want a racial war. That's the plan. They want a racial war. They're trying to instigate the white people against these Muslim immigrants. Now, don't get me wrong. I am all for kicking out the immigrants and building walls. I'm all for it, right? Any sane person would agree with that. That's the best thing to do for the safeguarding of any nation. If anybody says, no, we should not have walls, like the Pope said, it's the most unchristian thing to do, he's a devil, right? He's a devil. And you don't take advice from the devil. So if anybody says, it's a wrong thing to build walls, it's a wrong thing not to invite immigrants, it's a selfish thing to do, well, go bring them into your own home and keep them in your home. It's absolutely nonsense to say that, right? To safeguard your nation, to make it safe for your citizens, for them to seek God and to be blessed by God. They need to be safe, in a safe environment, and I'm all for it. But you see, they're going to instigate this racial war in America and Europe. They're going to use this racial war between the white people and the Muslims, and they're going to use it to destroy America, to destroy these nations. You think that these immigrants are coming and destroying it? Wait till you see what's going to happen next, right? It's not their presence and not those criminal activities that they do that is destroying these nations. What's coming is going to destroy nations. So for the last 80 years, and especially the last 10 years, right? What you see in America, especially even in European countries, is an extreme socialist communism, right? Especially in the extreme left wing, socialist communism. And of course, those people can really talk. They can turn the tables. They call people like Trump fascists and Nazis, right? While they themselves are doing what the fascists and the Nazis have done before, right? In Italy and in Germany. They are doing exactly that. And then they call the other people by those names. But there's also a rise in, an anti-American and anti-white policies, right? There are so many white people who are talking about what a shame it is for white people to have all these privileges. These people are demented, really. They're demon-possessed. They're crazy to talk like that. But you see, there's this whole thing, this anti-American, this anti-white thing, right, which is enough to give birth to extreme socialist, fascist backlash. And that's what's happening, right? That's what the Jesuits want. They are masters at this. Believe me, they are masters at it. Go do your research. Nobody can beat them at instigating groups, racial wars. Nobody can beat them at that. So, a lot of people write to me and say, both the Democrat and the Republican parties in America, both are controlled by the Jesuits, which I believe is true. It's absolutely true. Again, I do not know about Trump. I have no clue. Does he have associations with the Jesuits? Certainly he does, right? He himself was trained in a Jesuit university. He sent his son to a Jesuit university. He's very pally with the A.L. Smith group, which is totally controlled by the Jesuits of New York, right? The Archbishop Dolan of New York. So he certainly, in some ways or the other, either knowingly or unknowingly, I really do not know, He's associated with him, with them. Perhaps he's like other politicians who don't care about their religious convictions. Well, I have to get votes, so I better be good with them as well as the other group. Probably he's like that. I do not know. But you see, they certainly control the parties. And the Jesuits are masters at that. As I've said, go back and read the history of the First World War and the Second World War. You will see how they controlled both sides. They always do that. They are, again, masters at controlling both sides. And then they bring them against each other to fight each other in order for them to implement their plans. Okay, I was going to talk about this later, probably in the next Bible study, but I'll tell you about it before this. Remember, I told you about the phoenix, the bird phoenix, how it was originally, the choice for the bird that you see in the American seal. That's the one they wanted to use, because some of those founding fathers, as I told you, or even later, the people who worked with these things, some of them belong to occult groups. So they knew the significance of the phoenix in the occult world. Right? So the thing is, the thing about the phoenix bird is, right, that it burns down to ashes, then it comes back to life. There's this whole myth about that, right? It dies and comes back to life. So their slogan has always been order out of chaos. Order out of chaos. So they first create the crisis, the chaos, and then out of the chaos, they bring out the order that they want. In this case, it's the New World Order. I'm going to go into details later when we study about the Great Seal of America, right? We're going to talk about that and the dollar bill and things like that. I'll get into it when we talk about those things. But you see, the Jesuits control both the parties in America. They control them through their universities and various organizations, right? We spoke about Georgetown University. We spoke about the CFR and the Council for National Policy. These are all their arms, right? It's a many-headed, many-armed monster, the Jesuit organization. For them, there's no difference between those two parties. They're all the same. It doesn't matter to them whether they are liberal or conservative. Among the liberals, the Jesuits are liberals. Among the conservatives, they are conservatives. Among the godless, they are godless. Among the godly, they act like they are godly. They are masters of deception. So it doesn't matter to them, right, whether it's communism or fascism. They are like chameleons. You see, they just change colors according to the situation. They work together. They use all of these to work together for the destruction of the country and for the ultimate benefit of Rome. Because remember what I said in the previous Bible studies, their goal is to bring the whole world to the feet of the Pope. That's the ultimate goal of the Jesuits. The whole world, not under their feet, under the feet of the Pope. Why is that? Because they believe that one day their Pope will be the ruler of the world. So they're trying to make that happen. That's why. So everything is in place, especially in America. It's in place in Europe. Fascism is already established in these places. So in due time, what's going to happen is there's going to be an open race war. A race war, which is already happening, especially in Europe. It's mind-boggling to see what's happening, and people who do not know all these things get entangled in them, in these wars. So they think, well, these guys are coming to our nation and they are destroying it, so let's fight against them. That's exactly what the Jesuits want. They want them to fight. Right? So they have already, the majority of the populations, whether it's in America or anywhere in the world, the majority of the populations of the nations of this world are dumb, stupid, brainwashed, sick, right? They're just the way they want them to be so that they may be controlled. Mind-controlled people, right? They are hateful of people of color many times. Why is that? They are not like that naturally. It's because they've been instigated. They have been instigated. I'm not saying that, sometimes they're not right in their anger towards some of these people. But you see, behind all this, there is a force that is making these things to happen. So you have all these people, right, against Trump, saying we are going to leave America, go away to other countries. You see how stupid they are? Why is it? Because they've been brainwashed. That's why. So another thing that you cannot rule out when it comes, I really don't want to put Donald J. Trump's name with Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. I really don't want to. But you see, Donald Trump, in that way I'm superstitious, you might say. You see, Donald Trump has already survived an assassination attempt. What's the guarantee there won't be more? There will be. There will be. Unless, as I've said, even if he is one of them. Because in the eyes of people, he's a great revolutionary, they'll try to take him out. So I'm guessing, okay, this is only a guess. I'm guessing that they will either try to take him out or they will take him out. And I sincerely hope I'm wrong, but this is just my guess. Right? There's going to be this huge war because you see, some of the things that he's trying to do are revolutionary. They won't be accepted by half the nation. There might be a civil war, right? And that might lead to an attempt on his life, which may prove fatal. That's why you need to pray against these people, right? These people are demon-possessed. You must pray against them. They don't even think twice before taking out anybody. So that's going to happen. There will be assassination attempts, is what I guess, right? The Washington, D.C., the Capitol building, they'll try to blow up these, right? You've seen that when Donald Trump lost the elections, there were these people who marched down to Washington, D.C. and all that chaos. Well, we know that it's all been orchestrated, not by Trump, but by these people here. The next time they may go a step further and blow up those buildings, is what I'm guessing. There's only a guess. It's not a prophecy or doctrine or anything. And of course, the next step would be to do what was done in all nations where there were dictators, and that would be to confiscate your guns. The greatest expression of liberty in a nation is for the population to be allowed to carry firearms, the greatest expression of freedom. That will be taken away because when you have arms, you will fight. They don't want you to do that. Fight against these people. They'll allow people to use their arms against each other and then take the arms away from them so that they ultimately don't fight against these people. So that might happen, especially in America very soon, because in Europe, that's already in place. So all sorts of things can happen, right? There could be a military rule. America has already, started on the path of becoming a police state. And that might actually happen. And a lot of experts, right, these so-called experts, they have been saying this for decades now, saying that the UN's ultimate goal is total control, right? That's because the UN is controlled by the Jesuits. And their goal is to bring in their so-called peacekeeping forces into America so that the American police, the American army, they don't have any powers there. But, the UN peacekeeping forces will come and try to keep peace in America because probably of the civil war that might erupt because of an assassination or because of a racial war. All these things can happen. Now, again, let me say, I'll keep saying this every now and then because People have been brainwashed into believing that these kind of things are conspiracy theories. They're dumb. These are not conspiracy theories. These are probabilities, right, based on what's happening today. This is what you can deduce. So what's going to happen is that they'll try to make this crisis in America, right? I've spoken about this order out of chaos. So there has to be chaos. And I'm going to talk about that today if we have the time, how they started working towards this chaos long ago, right? I'm going to talk about that if we have the time today. So they're going to bring in martial law and mass roundups of people who go against the UN, right? You have all these FEMA camps, I think they are called. I think there are hundreds of them. Why did they build them? You know, these people, as I've said, are very far-sighted. They know what they're going to do, as I'm going to show you when I talk about 9/11. I'm going to talk about how far-sighted they are. But you must understand, these people are very far-sighted. Why did they make those camps? They know what's going to happen in the future, that's why. So, you know, there could be a foreign invasion of America. Foreign invasion, meaning China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, Turkey, right? Some of these nations could have a war that could lead to the Third World War, because, you know, already everybody is talking about a Third World War, because Biden is encouraging Ukraine to use American-made missiles and bombs against Russia. And Russia has already warned America. They said, if you do that, we will not hesitate to use nuclear bombs. Brethren, I'll tell you, before I move forward, we are very close to the rapture, praise God. Many are saying that, there's going to be a nuclear war. I don't know if that's going to happen before Trump takes office or after. I have no clue, but many are, and it looks like that because of the way the present administration of the United States government is pushing towards a Third World War, right? These people are experts, right? They're experts at doing that. They're totally controlled by the Jesuits. Totally controlled. And they're, experts at deposing leaders, right? And starting revolutions as they have done in African countries and Arab countries. They have done that. They are very capable of it. So you think if these people are capable of doing that in other countries, they cannot do it in their own country? Of course, they are capable of doing it. But they have a timing for everything, just like God has his perfect timing. So, the United States could be thrust into a Third World War, which will culminate, of course, in the ultimate defeat of America. America won't survive a Third World War. America won't go through a Third World War and come out as a superpower. That's impossible. That's not going to happen, right? It's going to face its ultimate defeat, and then probably the foreign invasion and things like that. All these things are possible. And looks like it's right there over the horizon, right? Ready to happen. It's very, very close. And in order to do this, they have all their tricks, they have all their deception, they have been using them completely in the United States, right? They have divided the nation on so many levels. It's astonishing, really, that a great nation like America is so divided today. Why is it? They divided it. Divide and rule is one of their main policies. Divide and rule. That's what they have done even here in India. Divide and rule. So they have demonized nationalism, right? True patriotism and nationalism, they have demonized them as evil. So that if anyone is a nationalist, anyone is a patriot, he's considered an evil, wicked, extreme, right-wing devil. They have demonized these things. Because you see, the Jesuit papacy absolutely hates nationalism. It absolutely hates patriotism. You know why? They want the people of the nations of this world to be loyal to the Pope, not to their own country. That's true. I'm not making this up. You will read it in their literature. You go and read it. So if the people are true patriots and nationalists, they cannot have a world empire, right? Now that's what Trump is trying to do. Again, going against their objective. He's trying to unite the United States. He's trying to make people love their country, work hard for their country, right? Be nationalistic in a good sense, patriotic. He's trying to do that. And Rome doesn't like it one bit. They don't like it one bit. So they're making people hate nationalism. The majority of these liberals hate nationalism, right? The communists and all these anti-American, anti-Bible, anti-white people that you have in America, they hate nationalism. They hate patriotism. They don't want it. So very soon, there's going to be chaos. I do not know how. I have shown you various things that may happen. One way or the other, there's going to be chaos, or they may use all of those things to bring in the chaos. And out of the chaos will rise the phoenix, right? Order out of chaos. That's what they want, and they are masters at doing that. Now, I said last week that I will mention some things that have been predicted by this brother named Eric John Phelps. He's written this wonderful book called The Vatican Assassins. It's an 1800-page book with all sorts of documentations and quotes and things that you need to read really if you're an American especially. Not just American, but everybody should read it. And he has a few predictions, right? And I'm going to mention them as quickly as I can because it's very important that you understand these things. So the Jesuit general, he's the one at the very top, right, of the Jesuit organization. He is the father confessor for the Pope. He controls everything. So he's also known as the Black Pope, by the way, if you've never heard of this before. The Jesuit general is the Black Pope, whereas the other Pope is the White Pope. He wears white clothes. So he's the one who controls it. So this is what he has planned for America and for the rest of the world, but especially for America. Flood the nation of America with alien, Roman Catholic, Hispanic people, right? And they are called immigrants. Well, if they come illegally, they are not really immigrants. I'm not against anybody, right? Don't get me wrong, but I'm just stating some of the things that are actually happening. Even those poor people who come to America thinking they'd find a better life have been deceived by these people. They've been deceived by them, right? So most of them, among them come criminals and other people. That's the sad part, but the majority of them probably are deceived. They come looking for a better life for themselves and their families, but what do they find? They are part of a diabolical plot to destroy America. They don't know that. If they are there illegally, that is. So that's the first thing. They want to flood the nation. They want to flood the nation with illegals, with Roman Catholics, especially, because they need that majority in every country. So they try to do that. They try to bring in as many as possible. So this is a plot, this is part of a plot to transform America into a racial nation of color, which I think has almost happened. Now, this prediction is more than 20 years old, I guess. So they want to make America dominantly Catholic. That's what this brother says. And dominantly Catholic, that's a phrase used by the, knights all the various knights that we spoke about last time. That's their goal. So the design of these knights is to make America dominantly Catholic. So they use, of course, people like George Soros, right, who's a Freemason. So they use people like that to start movements like, for example, Black Lives Matter. Every life matters, right? We understand that some of them have faced problems, but they don't understand that even the black people are caught up in this diabolical plan. Like the whites who hate them are caught up in this diabolical plan. They don't understand that they've been instigated to do this, to go against each other, the whites against the blacks against the whites against the Hispanics. All this is part of their plan, and that's what's happening in America. You know, this brother predicted this 20 years ago, at which time all this may have already started, but now we see it happening fully. Secondly, to flood the nation, again, to flood the nation, I'm talking about America, with Arab Muslims. Again, whoever it may be, whether it's Hispanics or the Arabs, if they have come in legally, that's wonderful. There's nothing wrong in that. Many do. But we are talking about the illegals, right? So they want to bring them over from the Middle East, from Syria, Egypt, and all these places, as well as the black Muslims from Africa, like, Nigeria and Somalia and all these places. So they want to paganize and de-Christianize America completely. Not that it's not already done, but they want to do it more. America is today as pagan as any other nation, unfortunately. But they want to do it much more. Right? That's the second thing that they are trying to do. So the third thing they want to do is incite anti-white, incite anti-white left-wing people to go against the white people. That's what they want to do. Instigate hatred and animosity towards the people. So they're using, right, all these people that they bring in to go against them, right? They want to bring in the Catholics and the Muslims to go against the generally nominally Protestant white people of America. Yeah, I'm not saying they're all born again. I'm saying nominally Protestant, who call themselves Christians because their parents were Christians or something like that, right? So they want this anti-white sentiment, intending to drive both groups to desperation and then push them into a civil war. That's what they want to do. That's the third anti-white sentiment, you can say. I'm not saying that one group are like angels and the other group are like devils. No. In both groups, the fools are the ones who end up being controlled by the Jesuits. That's the problem. On both sides, they are sane people. On both sides, they are born-again, Bible-believing Christians. But not all, right? Not all. And that's the sad thing. And both think that they are right. So they wanted to, bring these Arabs and these Roman Catholics against the American whites in general, right? They are called WASPs, right? That's the word they go by, WASPs. White Anglo-Saxon Protestants, right? White American, white Anglo-Saxon, Protestants, WASP. So they want to go against them. They want to go against them and destroy them. They want to have a civil war in America within the largest cities of the nation. So, you see, they have been brainwashing the black population of America right through communism and right, like Martin Luther King Jr. was a communist, really. Whether you hate me for saying that or not, I do not know, but that's the truth. They've been using the socialist communist policies of the last 60, 70 years to brainwash these people. That's why you find a lot of them with those beliefs and policies. So they want to use that. They want to use the Muslims and they want to use the Roman Catholics to destroy the white people, the nominally Protestant white people of America. So that's the third thing. Now, the next thing is to bring in martial law. Bring in martial law. Then, again, agitate a pro-black and pro-Muslim agitation directed by the Knights of Malta. They are there behind everything. Specifically, George Soros. He's a Jew, right? And he's also a papal knight of Malta. He belongs to the Knights of Malta, as was Henry Kissinger, right? Henry Kissinger was a part of the CFR, and he was the mentor of Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum. They're all connected. They're all controlled by the Jesuits. So they want to do that. They want to have a pro-black, pro-Muslim agitation, which is already happening in many parts. And they're going to see that this again leads to a civil war. Then they're going to establish a sort of a communist government, either directly or through China. I do not know how it's going to work out. But, a pro-socialist, pro-communist, left-wing, and they're going to, government, they're going to do it with the help of the army. Whether the United States Army or the United Nations Army, that has to be seen. This, of course, would then make America go directly under the control of the Jesuits. Then they would be able to control not just the government, but the people as well, because it's going to be martial law. It's going to be a police state. So that's the next one. In order to achieve this, well, they can do various things, right? Like right now, they are pushing Russia against the wall. And Russia, sooner or later, sooner than later, is my guess, will retaliate. Because Putin is waiting, not doing anything, because he knows Trump's going to come and take office and probably the war's going to end. So maybe that's the reason why he's not retaliating, or else he could have easily used a nuclear weapon, right? So that can happen. But in order to achieve these things, they can do so many other things. You remember the suitcase nuclear bombs, which were so famous during the Cold War, which went missing from Russia. Many of them went missing in Russia. They can use them in American cities. In fact, many American generals, army generals, had warned the government about this previously. They said they can do this. Who's going to do it? Maybe Russia will do it, I do not know. But even if Russia doesn't do it, they'll have their players and then blame it on Russia. It's so easy, right? You use a suitcase bomb with a nuclear device in it, blast it in some major American city or in many American cities and say Russia has done it. America will go to war with Russia. That's what they want. Chaos is what they want. War is what they want. So that can happen. So then, of course, a lot of other things are predicted by this man, but I'm not going to get into all the details of these things. But he talks about the FEMA concentration camps now in place throughout the United States. He talks about the roundups, which will include millions of blacks, Muslims, communists, Hispanics, homosexuals, Bible believers, fundamental Christians, Jews, all sorts of people would be put in these concentration camps like Hitler did. So he says, as you know, the Jesuits intend to kill every Jew in North America, as the order so intended in Europe and Western Russia when it eliminated the Pale of Settlement using both Jesuit coadjutors, Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin, aided by Churchill and FDR, right? That's his statement. So they are capable of doing it. They have the whole setup in place. They are easily capable of doing it. Another thing that he talks about is a war in the Middle East. An unwinnable war. A war in the Middle East. Now, Trump's saying that he's going to stop all wars. That's what JFK tried to do, right? The Vietnam War. He didn't want it. But the Jesuits wanted it because they wanted to put in their own dictator in Vietnam. In order to do that, they were using the United States to get rid of the government in Vietnam. He went against it and he got shot for it. He is going against it today. He's saying he's going to stop all these wars. He's saying he's going to stop the war in the Middle East, which has been started by none other than these people. So he says they're going to incite an unwinnable two-front war, one in the Middle East and then in the Far East, starting with North Korea, he says. That can happen. North Korea is there in the Far East, and they're very unpredictable. And in the Middle East, well, the war is already going on. He says this bloodbath will include the sacrifice of America's greatest soldiers and Marines, the defeat of our Navy, and subsequent Sino-Soviet Muslim invasion of North America. There you have it in his own words. He says this war will ultimately lead two-front war, one in the Middle East and then one in the Far East. In this two-front war, what they want is the destruction of American soldiers, just like they did in the Second World War and the First World War. You know, God had his plans for them, no doubt, for these wars, but they had their own plans too. They wanted to get rid of the heretical Protestants, the infidels, who dared to go against the power of Rome. So the most number of soldiers killed in these wars were young Protestant men. And that's what they're going to try to do with America in this two-front war. So this is another prediction that he makes. And well, this has already proven to be right. There's already a war in the Middle East. He predicted this about 20 years ago, I guess. And then he says, look at this, it's very significant. There are presently millions of fifth column Russians, Chinese and Muslims in the country intended to secure the success of the coming invasion of the West Coast and the apostate Protestant Baptist southern borders. That's his words, not mine. So he says there's going to be an invasion of the West Coast and the South of America. That's what we've been saying earlier, right? They'll try to bring in chaos in various ways. One of those things could be a world war that America will be thrust into, and then the invasion of America by foreign nations. So that can really happen. And that's what he says too. And then he says, this is interesting, the last one, the destruction of the Temple Mount mosques and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem during this coming World War III. So he predicts that we're going to see World War III right here before we go up. Though he's a Calvinist, he's a premillennialist, and he believes in the rapture of the church before the tribulation begins, talking about Eric John Phelps. But he says that we're going to witness this World War III probably will be taken up during the course of this war. But he says that the Temple Mount mosques will be destroyed in this coming war in the Middle East, which will escalate, right? If he's right. He says this will inflame the entire Sunni Muslim world, secretly led by Freemasons loyal to the Pope of Rome, to call for a jihad against America, the great Satan. Why? Because America is to be blamed not only for the decimation of the Jerusalem mosques, making possible the building of the third Hebrew temple as plotted by Rome for over 6 centuries, but for the destruction of the mosques in Mecca and Medina. So that's what he predicts. He predicts that this war is going to destroy all these holy places of the Muslims. So they're going to retaliate, right? I think if America is instrumental in the destruction of only the Temple Mount mosques, the Muslim world may not rise up against America. But like what he says here, if they go against the most holy places in Mecca and Medina, then the whole Muslim world will rise up against America. He says, if the United States military destroys these mosques, all Muslims will unite to kill every American on earth. That's what they want. This war, this civil war, this war between nations, a third world war, a nuclear war. They want absolute chaos. So out of the chaos will rise the phoenix of the new world order. It sounds too far-fetched for some of you. Well, if you know what's happening in the world, and if you know especially how the Jesuits work, this won't sound far-reaching at all. This is not impossible. It's not a conspiracy. Even if it's a conspiracy, it's a real conspiracy by these people. They just put it out openly in such a way that people think this is just a conspiracy. They are masters at deception. I keep saying that because it should be drilled into your minds. The greatest enemies among human beings of the Protestant, especially Bible-believing Baptist Christians, are these people. They go by the name of Christians, sadly. These people are responsible for the persecution of true Christians in all nations. You know what they do? They go into nations and they get a bad name by doing some really bad things. And the people of those nations think these people are Christians who are doing that, so they go against the Christians. They do some really bad things and then they back out. Like, for example, I will close with this example here in India. In the 16th century, the Jesuits came to India and they actually set up an inquisition, right, in India, in the state of Goa, in India, in the western state of Goa, which is very famous today, right, for tourism. A lot of white people like to go to Goa. It was under the control of the Portuguese for a very long time, even after India became a nation and got independence from the British. So they came and they established the Jesuits. I'm talking about specifically the Jesuits. They established their mission in Goa. Then they went all the way down to the south of India, to the state of Kerala. I mentioned this before. In Kerala, we have a group of Christians known as the Thomas Christians. That's because they can actually trace their lineage back to the 1st century AD, when Thomas came to India in 52 AD and preached the gospel. So there's an unbroken line of Christians in the southern state of Kerala in India. They have been there, and also in Tamil Nadu. There is this belief among them that when Thomas came to India, he established 7 local churches. Of course, they degenerated and became like, you know, the Eastern Orthodox Church or something like that, like the Catholic Church. They degenerated. But the one thing about this group of Christians was that they had the pure Bible with them, the Syrian text. They had the pure Bible with them. And they had these bishops come over from the Eastern Orthodox Church. Some of them were Nestorians. At some point, the Nestorians came over to India and they sent their bishops to take care of these churches. They were apostate, no doubt, but they had the pure Bible. They preserved it. You know what the Jesuits did when they came to India? They went there with military force, and by force they destroyed, they took that Bible away from them. They had just one copy of it, the Syriac Bible. They took it away from them and replaced it with their own Roman Catholic Latin liturgy. Can you believe it? Not only that, the reason I'm talking about it is this. These Jesuits, like Francis Xavier, his dead body is still preserved in Goa in a huge Roman Catholic cathedral. It's still there. It's in a glass box. Anyone can go in at a certain time in the year and you can look at that half, eaten body, half degenerated body. It's there. I've seen it. So he came and he established this mission, and you know what he would do? He would either by force or by giving bribes convert the poor fishermen communities of India to Roman Catholicism. Right? So he would do it by force or he would do it by bribing them, one way or the other. He would take the children and teach them the Roman Catholic catechisms. And then he would baptize them and say, these are all Roman Catholics. And of course, these people, these communities were, people from where you would get the drunkards and the thieves and the murderers and all these things. Even after they claimed to have become Christian, they still continued doing those things. And then Rome backs out. Then what do the people of India think? Christians forcibly convert people to their religion. That's the name that Christians get because of what the Jesuits do. They say Christians bribe other people to get converted into Christianity. Why do they accuse us of this? It's because of what the Jesuits have really done in India. When they came to India, they called themselves Christians. And they say you have to get converted into Christianity. What they actually do is convert them to Roman Catholicism. But the people don't know the difference. They think they are all Christians. And ultimately blame Bible-believing Christians for forcibly converting people or for bribing them into converting. So now, right, I don't want to go into the details, but there is a widespread hatred and animosity among the people of this country against Christians because of what they did. So never for a moment underestimate the power of these people. They are the greatest enemies of born-again, Bible-believing Christians. In their councils, right, the Roman Catholic Church councils, they have the one that they had during the Reformation. They have clearly cursed every Bible-believing Christian. They have cursed them. They said if you are a Bible-believing Christian, if you're a Protestant, if you're a Baptist or a Methodist, you are cursed. It's written down in their declarations. And the Jesuits have taken that a step further and said these cursed people should either submit and become our slaves or they should be put to death. You can read some of these books about the history of the Jesuits and the secrets of the Jesuits, right? The secret oath of the Jesuits, the highest level of Jesuits take a secret oath. I'm going to talk about some of these things, the Lord willing, in the next Bible study. But the reason, again, we are talking about this without getting a lot into scripture, I'm calling it a Bible study, but you may have noticed we didn't really study any scripture verses. And that's because these things are related to the times that we are living in. The last days that Paul said will be perilous, right? In the last days, perilous times shall come, he said, dangerous times. We are living in those days. We are trying to understand those days. We are trying to understand the trajectory of these last days. Where is it heading? And at the top of all these things that are happening in the world is the United States of America. That's why we are trying to look at what's happening in America and how it's connected to the last days. So thank you very much for joining me for this Bible study. The Lord bless you, and the Lord willing, we'll meet again in the next Bible study and continue to try and understand some of these things. Thank you.